Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Viktor Frankl. We grow up believing that freedom will finally arrive after decades of hard work and sacrifice, a golden moment called retirement. But for many, that long-awaited day brings not joy, but an unsettling emptiness. Frankl's insight cuts through this illusion. Freedom is not a future event. It's the way you live and choose right now. Every single day offers an opportunity to create meaning, nurture relationships, and savor the moments that truly matter. You don't have to wait until you have more money, more time, or the perfect conditions to begin living fully. If you've ever felt you're simply preparing to live instead of actually living, this will speak to you. Let's uncover the truth about retirement and freedom together. And if this message resonates, please subscribe and share to support the channel. You may have been told your whole life that freedom is something you earn later, a distant reward after decades of hard work and sacrifice. But Viktor Frankl's words pierce through that illusion. In the most brutal conditions imaginable, when every physical liberty had been stripped away, he saw that there was still one choice no one could take: the freedom to decide your own attitude toward what happens. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This understanding shatters the idea that freedom is a milestone like retirement. It is not a date circled on the calendar. It is a living capacity within you. You might imagine that one day, when you have more money, more time, or finally step away from your job, you'll feel truly free. Yet Alan Watts reminds us that life is more like a piece of music, where the value is in each note, not in the final chord. Frankl's life affirms that if you cannot find inner freedom in the present, you will not magically feel it in the future, even with perfect conditions. Think about the countless people who reach retirement only to discover that the anticipated joy never arrives, replaced instead by a quiet sense of emptiness. They waited for a moment that could never give what they refused to claim in their daily lives. Right now, under the weight of bills, deadlines, or caring for others, you may feel trapped, yet even in this pressure, the choice of how you meet your day is still yours. Perhaps you've been telling yourself that after the next promotion, after the kids grow up, after the mortgage is paid, you will finally live the way you want. This is the very pattern that keeps you in emotional reactivity, waiting for permission to enjoy your own existence. Freedom is not found in the absence of responsibility. It's in the way you hold yourself while carrying it. Imagine waking tomorrow and choosing to walk slowly to your car instead of rushing, to listen deeply when your partner speaks instead of mentally rehearsing your to-do list. These acts seem small, but they are the building blocks of finding inner freedom. When you stop delaying happiness and start engaging with meaning now, the fear of retirement becomes irrelevant because your life is already full. This realization opens a new path, one where you no longer ask why you delay happiness, why you wait to live, or why you feel unfulfilled despite doing everything right. You begin to see that the perfect time never comes. What comes is today, with its own imperfect yet vivid possibilities. Even in a society that measures your value by your productivity, where stepping back can make you feel guilty, you can quietly reclaim moments that belong only to you. You do not have to escape your work to live with meaning. You can infuse meaning into the work itself, into the way you greet a colleague, into the attention you give a task. In a world that constantly pushes you toward the future, the most radical act is to be fully here. This is not about ignoring your goals, but about refusing to let them rob you of the present. You can still plan for retirement, still dream of travel or new projects, but those dreams will grow richer when your daily life is already awake. If you start now, you may find that by the time you reach retirement, you are not desperate for freedom because you never surrendered it in the first place. And if you choose to live like that, you will not only change your own life, but quietly inspire those around you to stop postponing theirs. Without preaching, without demanding, your presence becomes proof that it's possible to live fully now, even in a world that constantly tells you to wait. That influence begins subtly. A friend noticing how you savor your coffee instead of rushing, a colleague seeing how you protect moments with your family, a loved one feeling your full attention when you speak. It plants seeds, and those seeds lead naturally into the next truth. The belief in the perfect time is one of the most persistent illusions we carry. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, describes this trap as future bias, our tendency to overvalue rewards that lie ahead while undervaluing the joy and meaning available in the present. This bias is the hidden engine behind the retirement dream. You've been conditioned to think that one day, when all the pieces align, you'll step into a life that finally feels whole. The cultural script promises that after years of hard work and sacrifice, there will be a decisive moment when you are free. But here is the uncomfortable truth. For many, when that long-awaited day comes, the feeling is not liberation, but a quiet disappointment. The day feels too ordinary to carry the weight of decades of expectation. Frankl saw the cost of this mindset in the most extreme environment imaginable. In the concentration camps, those who lived solely for a better tomorrow often withered when that tomorrow failed to arrive. The ones who survived in spirit were those who found reasons to live today. A person they loved, a piece of work that mattered, or a value they refused to surrender. Their meaning was not deferred, it was embodied in the present moment. This is not just a lesson for survival in crisis. It's a model for living in any circumstance, including the comfort and complexity of modern life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs offers a parallel. At its peak is self-actualization, becoming the fullest version of yourself. Many assume this can wait until they've achieved financial security or freed up their schedules, but delaying this growth is a quiet form of self-abandonment. When you tell yourself you'll start painting after you retire, or you'll mend a relationship once you have more time, you are postponing not just an activity, but the person you could be right now. The longer you wait, the more that version of yourself slips into the distance. You may think the delay is harmless, that you are simply being practical, but this delay shapes you. It trains your mind to believe that real life is always somewhere else, always a step ahead. The perfect time becomes a moving target, retreating each time you get close. You save your best clothes for an occasion that never comes. Hold back your affection until the timing is right, and store away your curiosity for later. This is how days turn into years without you noticing. If you have ever wondered why you wait to live, why you keep pushing joy to the edges of your calendar, or why even achievements leave you feeling unfulfilled, this is the reason. Freedom and meaning are not waiting for you in the future. They are available only in the present. Once you see that, the question changes from "when will I start?" to "what will I do today?" Even in the middle of your busiest week, you can choose one action that aligns with your deeper values. Calling someone you miss, learning something that excites you, stepping outside to watch the sky. These acts may not look dramatic, but they are your declaration that the perfect time is now. And once you start living that way, you will see that tomorrow no longer has the power to hold your life hostage. It loses its grip because you are no longer waiting for it to deliver meaning. You are cultivating that meaning in the soil of today. This shift changes the texture of your life, but it also reveals a deeper truth. Meaning itself is the lifeblood of your existence. Without it, the days may continue, but the spirit begins to wither. Viktor Frankl understood this with piercing clarity. In Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." He saw men survive starvation, humiliation, and endless labor, not because their conditions improved, but because they had a reason, a face to remember, a cause to defend, a task unfinished. When the why disappeared, the will to live faded quickly. And in modern life, the same principle applies. Retirement without a clear sense of purpose is often less a reward and more a silent collapse. The body may rest, but the mind drifts into emptiness, and with it comes retirement shock, the quiet onset of depression, the draining of energy, even the decline of physical health. Carl Jung called this the ego crisis. When your identity fuses entirely with your professional role. I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher. You risk building your entire self around a single pillar. Remove that pillar, and the structure shudders. Jung urged that you expand your identity, moving beyond the narrow confines of a job title, so that when life inevitably changes, you do not collapse with it. The deeper self, as he saw it, is vast enough to carry many roles, many meanings over the course of a lifetime. Think of someone you know who retired and seemed fine for the first few months. The novelty of rest and leisure felt refreshing. But by the first year, a subtle restlessness crept in. By the second, it became harder to get out of bed, not because of physical pain, but because there was no clear reason to. The days blurred together, not due to a lack of tasks, but because there was no central purpose pulling them forward. That is the true danger. Not the absence of work, but the absence of a compelling why. This absence can show up long before retirement. You might be working now, busy every day, but if the work no longer connects to something meaningful, you can feel the same hollow ache. You might recognize it in that moment you sit at your desk, glance at the clock, and wonder what any of this is for. Without purpose, time feels heavier. With it, even hard work feels lighter. Frankl's logotherapy insists that meaning can be created in any circumstance, through work that matters, through love for others, and through the attitude you choose towards suffering. In retirement, that might mean mentoring younger people, starting a creative project, or devoting time to a cause close to your heart. In working years, it might mean seeing your role not just as a way to earn money, but as a chance to contribute, to learn, to grow. Yet our culture rarely prepares us for this. It trains us to think of purpose as a byproduct of employment. Once the job ends, we are left without the skills to build meaning independently. This is why some people, despite financial security and freedom from schedules, feel lost in the vastness of their own time. Purpose is not a luxury to be enjoyed after survival is guaranteed. It is a necessity, like oxygen, needed every single day. So ask yourself now, what is your why today? Not someday, not after you retire, but now. If your work ended tomorrow, what would still pull you forward? What reason would get you out of bed? Begin to invest in those reasons now, even in small ways. Call the person who inspires you. Volunteer an hour a week for something that matters. Learn the skill you've always pushed aside, because a life without purpose is not simply quiet, it is dying in slow motion. And a life with purpose, even in struggle, feels vividly alive because you are no longer measuring its worth by comfort or convenience, but by the depth of meaning it carries. That aliveness is what most people truly crave. Yet in our culture, it is often confused with constant activity. The busier you are, the more valuable you are told you are. Over time, this message seeps deep into your identity until you no longer simply do productive things. You begin to believe you are your productivity. This is what sociologist Max Weber explored in The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. He traced how Western culture elevated work to a kind of moral calling, where being industrious became not just a practical necessity, but a sign of virtue. In this framework, productivity is no longer a means to an end. It is the end itself. When you live in an environment shaped by this ethic long enough, you internalize the belief that your value is tied directly to your output. Without producing, you feel invisible. Without tasks, you feel worthless. Viktor Frankl would not have condemned hard work. He respected discipline and responsibility, but he would have challenged the idea that work alone defines your life. In his view, meaning is the true aim, and work is only one possible vessel for it. If that vessel breaks, if you lose your job, retire, or step back, and you have not cultivated other sources of meaning, the emptiness will quickly surface. It is not the absence of work that wounds you, it is the absence of purpose that was never rooted beyond the work. Psychologist Barry Schwartz offers a parallel insight in the paradox of choice. He describes a state of emotional paralysis that happens when expectations and reality drift too far apart. Many retirees expect that rest will bring joy, but instead they feel restless or even guilty. After decades of associating rest with laziness, the mind rebels against stillness. They have been conditioned to believe that every unproductive moment is a moral failing, so they cannot savor the very freedom they worked for. This trap doesn't only appear at retirement. You might already be in it now without realizing it. Think about how you feel on a day off. Do you allow yourself to truly rest, or do you fill the hours with tasks just to prove to yourself that the day was worth something? Do you catch yourself measuring even hobbies by their output? How much you wrote, how many steps you walked, how many things you checked off? That's the productivity identity at work, quietly convincing you that your worth is conditional. The consequence is subtle but profound. Even when you achieve financial freedom, you may not experience emotional freedom. The calendar may be open, but your mind is still trapped in the old operating system, one that only recognizes value when you are producing. This is why some people who have it all still feel restless and dissatisfied. They have never practiced living outside the framework of constant achievement. Frankl's approach offers a way out. Begin by detaching meaning from measurable output. See if you can value moments not for what they produce, but for how fully you inhabit them. This might mean watching a sunset without photographing it, having a conversation without glancing at your phone, or taking a walk without tracking the distance. These acts are small rebellions against a culture that wants every moment to be optimized. They are also acts of self-liberation. Releasing yourself from the productivity identity is not about becoming idle. It is about becoming whole. It means you can still work hard and contribute, but you no longer collapse when those roles change. Your identity is anchored in something deeper than your to-do list, and when that shift happens, you gain a freedom that no job title, no financial milestone, and no retirement plan can match. The freedom to be fully human, whether or not you are producing. But this freedom is meaningless if your body and mind are too depleted to experience it. We forget that our health is not a passive account we can draw from whenever we please. It is a living, fragile system that demands attention now, not later. Look at the numbers. The World Health Organization reports that heart disease, diabetes, depression, and stress-related disorders surge between the ages of 40 and 60, well before most people retire. The Centers for Disease Control notes that nearly 60% of adults over 65 live with at least 2 chronic conditions. These aren't abstract statistics. They are a quiet warning that the window for living well is not infinite. We imagine a someday when our calendar will be open, our savings secure, and our body strong enough to finally do all the things we put off. But for many, that someday arrives with limitations they never planned for. Viktor Frankl understood this risk. In his writings, he warned against the trade-offs so many people make, sacrificing mental and physical well-being for future goals without any guarantee they'll be in a position to enjoy them. The problem is not ambition itself, but the blindness it creates when all focus is locked on a distant horizon. You can work for years toward financial freedom only to find that, by the time you reach it, your health has been the quiet cost of admission. Rollo May, in The Courage to Create, spoke to a related truth. The courage to live authentically must be practiced not in times of ease, but in times of strain. Those pressured, chaotic years in the middle of life are not an obstacle to living well. They are the very training ground for it. If you wait for the storm to pass before you start living fully, you will discover that the calm you are hoping for may never come, and the strength you could have built in the storm has withered from neglect. Think about the pace of your own life right now. Are you pushing your body through fatigue, telling yourself you'll rest when the big project is done, when the kids are grown, when the mortgage is paid? Are you postponing the small joys because they feel indulgent in the face of work? This is how years slip by, quietly eroding your vitality until you realize too late that the freedom you were chasing was always meant to be lived with health, not after it. This isn't just about avoiding illness. It's about preserving the clarity, energy, and emotional balance that allow you to be present in the life you already have. A healthy mind makes space for gratitude. A healthy body expands the possibilities of what you can do with your time, and together they form the foundation on which any meaningful definition of freedom must rest. Start treating your health, mental and physical, as part of your purpose, not a side project. Schedule rest as seriously as you schedule work. Move your body in ways that bring joy, not just burn calories. Guard your mind from the constant noise of stress and distraction, even if it means saying no to opportunities that promise more money or prestige but quietly drain your well-being. The truth is, the resources you're counting on for retirement, money, time, freedom, mean little if your mind is clouded and your body is too weak to use them. If you care for your well-being along the way, you won't arrive at retirement desperate to make up for lost time. You'll already be living a life worth continuing. Freedom is not only the absence of work, it is the presence of the energy, resilience, and health to fully inhabit the days you're given. And that can only be built now, in the middle of the noise, before the so-called perfect time ever arrives. Because meaning, like health, cannot be stored up for later. It must be lived into, one day at a time. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy is built on a simple but powerful insight. The primary human drive is not pleasure or power, but meaning. And meaning is accessible in every season of life, not just after the clock of work has run out. Frankl identified three main pathways to meaning. The first is through work or contribution, not necessarily paid labor, but any creative or purposeful act that leaves something better than you found it. The second is through love and relationship, the deep bonds that give our lives texture, warmth, and belonging. And the third is through the attitude you take toward unavoidable suffering, the choice to transform hardship into a source of strength and perspective. These aren't theoretical ideals. They are choices available to you today, regardless of your age, status, or circumstances. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, a 75-year investigation into what makes life fulfilling, found that the quality of our relationships is the single strongest predictor of happiness and health in later life. Not wealth, not status, not the number of stamps in your passport. Connection, care, and shared meaning stand at the center. This aligns perfectly with Frankl's view. Achievements may satisfy for a moment, but it is the enduring bonds of love, the moments of real human connection, that sustain us. And unlike career milestones or financial goals, these do not require decades of preparation. They require presence, vulnerability, and the willingness to act now. Abraham Maslow spoke of self-actualizations, the peak of human development, but Frankl extends this further. Self-actualization is not just the privilege of the fortunate. It is the possibility that exists in every circumstance, even the most painful. The question is not, when will life give me the conditions to thrive? But rather, how can I create meaning with the conditions I already have? In practice, this might mean calling a friend you've drifted from, not because you have time, but because you value the bond. It might mean offering your skills to someone who needs them without expecting payment or recognition. It might mean finding a way to learn something new simply because it sparks curiosity. These are not grand gestures. They are daily acts of meaning-making. Yet so many people postpone them. They wait for after the promotion, after the kids leave home, after retirement, not realizing that the muscle of meaning weakens when left unused. By the time the free time arrives, the capacity to engage deeply has atrophied. Frankl's life in the concentration camps taught him that even in the bleakest environments, a person can choose to live meaningfully. For some, it was the dream of seeing a loved one again. For others, the determination to complete a piece of work. And for many, it was the simple refusal to let suffering erase their humanity. If meaning can exist there, it can exist anywhere, including in the messy, demanding years you're living now. You may not control every circumstance, but you control the meaning you bring to them. And every time you choose to act with purpose, you are building a foundation of freedom that no job, no market, no political change can take from you. So stop waiting for the mythical day when life slows down enough to feel meaningful. Start weaving meaning into the minutes you already have. Make the call, offer help, learn the skill. Love the people in front of you. Freedom is not found in an empty calendar. It is found in a full heart. And that fullness is something you can begin creating today. And when you see it that way, retirement stops being the finish line you crawl toward and starts becoming a stage you can design with intention. Breaking free from the old definition of retirement means letting go of the idea that it's simply the end of work. In truth, it can be the end of trading nearly all your time and energy for a single financial goal, and the beginning of choosing how you invest yourself in what truly matters. Viktor Frankl would frame it this way: the ideal retirement is a phase where you can freely choose meaningful activities without the compulsion of basic survival needs. It's not about withdrawal, it's about liberation into purpose. Carl Jung offers a similar but deeply psychological perspective. He saw the second half of life not as a decline, but as a time to explore the self more fully, moving beyond the social roles that defined your earlier years and stepping into a more integrated, inwardly whole existence. From this angle, retirement isn't a closing door. It's a rite of passage, a transformation in how you live and who you understand yourself to be. And perhaps one of the most telling contrasts comes from cultures that already resist the all-or-nothing approach. In places like Denmark and the Netherlands, people don't hoard all their leisure for the end of life. They practice partial retirement throughout their lives, protecting space for hobbies, family, and community alongside their careers. This way, they never face the shock of going from full-speed work to a sudden stop, because their identity and happiness were never bound exclusively to their job. Imagine if you adopted that mindset now. Instead of imagining a distant day when you'll finally travel, paint, learn, or reconnect with loved ones, you weave these into your life in small, consistent ways. You don't have to quit your work to start reclaiming your freedom. You only have to stop letting your work define the limits of your life. Frankl's logotherapy would encourage you to see both work and rest as platforms for meaning. The question is never, how do I fill my time? But how do I fill my time with significance? If your definition of retirement shifts from absence of work to abundance of purpose, the waiting game ends, and you start living in alignment today. There's also a quiet but essential truth here. The life you will want in your later years will not suddenly appear because the calendar flipped. It will be the life you've been building brick by brick through your daily choices. If you spend decades postponing joy, connection, and self-discovery, You may arrive at retirement with a bank account, but without the inner wealth to enjoy it. This redefinition matters because it removes the pressure to make it to a mythical endpoint before you allow yourself to live. It places the focus on the present while still honoring the future you're moving toward. Retirement, in this light, is simply one more transition, not the sole permission slip for a meaningful life. And when you understand that, you can start designing a life where freedom isn't backloaded into the final chapter but infused into every page. You can allow yourself to rest without guilt, to work without losing yourself, and to live without waiting for the world to grant you the right conditions. True freedom, then, is the freedom to live meaningfully now, to create, to connect, to grow, so that whenever retirement arrives, it finds you already living the life you once thought you had to wait for. When you strip away the illusions, retirement and freedom are not distant destinations. Frankl taught us that freedom begins in the present, in your ability to choose your attitude, even under pressure. Jung reminded us that the second half of life is not about decline, but about unfolding into your deeper self. We've seen how the perfect time is a moving target, how losing purpose can drain your vitality, and how tying your worth to productivity robs you of peace. We've uncovered that your health, both mental and physical, won't wait. That meaning is built into daily acts, and that retirement can be redefined as a life stage of chosen significance, not empty space. If there's one practice to carry forward, it's this. Each morning, ask yourself a single question. What is one small action I can take today that brings meaning to my life and to someone else's? It could be as simple as reaching out to a friend, learning a skill, or pausing to truly see the world around you. This is how you stop postponing life. Developing independent thinking, nurturing inner peace, and practicing self-awareness, psychology, are not abstract goals. They are daily choices, and when you make them now, you'll find that you are already living the freedom you thought you had to wait for. I'd love to hear your own perspective. How do you define freedom in your life today? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments so we can learn from one another. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe for more insights that challenge the way we see life and ourselves.